Hi guys, my name is Nadia and I'm here today to do a video that was a request from Never Be Hopeless, Drew and Yai Booktube. They also have a Booktube channel in Spanish, so if you speak Spanish, feel free to check out their channel. I'm going to put the link in the description box. And they asked me how I learned to read in English and if I have any tips or something. I actually thought this was a really good idea for a video, and I'm gonna be talking to you guys today about my reading story, how I started reading in English, and then give you some tips on how you can start reading in a foreign language. I first started reading in English when I was about 13, I think, because my English teacher thought it would be a good way to practice, and it really was. She gave me this little Sherlock Holmes book that was in English, and that was actually a short version that was especially made for people who are learning English, so the language was a lot easier, and there was a vocabulary page in the end. It was really cool, but it was not really the most interesting thing I've read. So I thought maybe I would start reading some real books in English, and then I started buying those books, and I realized that they're really cheap. So I started buying more and more of those books just to save money, actually. And at some point I realized I really started liking reading in English. The dialogues were a lot better, everything made more sense, and generally I really liked it, and that's why I kept reading in English, and that's why I'm reading in English now, because I really prefer reading books in their original language than reading translations of books. So if you also want to start reading in a foreign language, just maybe to read books in their original language, or to save some money, or just for fun, here are my tips on what you could do. First of all, I would recommend reading easy books. My pick would be middle school or young adult books, but if you really don't like reading those at all, then it doesn't make any sense for you to pick them up, because you're just gonna get bored. So think of the genres that you like to read and then pick the one that you think is the easiest one to go through. So in my experience, if you're reading in a foreign language, you probably won't know all of the words and you probably won't understand some sentences. But the trick here is to just keep going. Just don't let this one sentence or even this whole paragraph get in your way, and if you start looking up all those words, then it will take all the fun out of it, and you'll just waste lots and lots of time, and you're probably not even gonna enjoy it, so you'll end up giving up on the book, which is not the point. The goal is to finish the book, and to finish the book you just have to keep going. And if you miss even a paragraph, then it's really not that bad, because you're still gonna get the whole point from the rest of the book, and you're probably not gonna miss anything major. Another thing that I would recommend is to start by reading short books. Don't pick up any huge books, because I actually did that mistake. Last year I thought I wanted to start reading in German because I was currently learning German, so I picked up Aragon, which is this big, more than 700 pages, and I actually made it to 100 pages, but it was like this far, and I was getting really exhausted. I felt like I would never be able to finish this book, and so I gave up on it. So if you don't want this to happen to you, just pick a shorter book that you'll be able to finish in a specific amount of time and not need years or months to finish one book. Another thing I would recommend is reading contemporary books, and avoid at all costs dystopians. The reason I'm saying this is because dystopians use words that do not exist, that are made up. Take for example divergent. I'm still not sure if divergent is a real English word or if it just means something in the book. And it's really frustrating, because you won't be able to understand, is there a double meaning here, or is it just a made up word, and it's really confusing sometimes. So I would really avoid dystopians and go with contemporary books. I would also avoid reading older books, because the language is kind of different and there are words used that are no longer used in the modern language. One of the first books I got in English was The Fairy Tales of the Brothers Grimm, because I thought it's fairy tales, it's gonna be easy to read, right? Well, it wasn't. The language was extremely hard, I could not understand anything, and I didn't read more than 2 pages. So I would definitely go with some newer books. Don't pick any classics or any books that are older. Another thing that you can do is reread books that you've also read in your mother language. That way you already know the story, you know what's gonna happen, so if you miss a couple of things, it's not that bad. And it's a good way to practice and get you going in reading the foreign language. What I wouldn't really do is read sequels if you've already read the first book in your mother tongue and then want to read the sequel to another language. It's getting kind of confusing. I did this with Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is also one of those books that uses this fictional words, and then I didn't know what meant what. It got really confusing and it took all the fun out of it. So yeah, again, there's no point in doing that. One more thing that you should avoid is reading books that use too much slang. Like, for example, I read Looking for Alaska by John Green not too long ago, and it had so many words that probably young people in America use right now, but they're not in dictionaries, and if you don't live in America you probably don't know them. So it was kind of hard to understand at some points, even though I love this book, but still, it was really hard. The problem here, I know, is that you don't know before if this is gonna be a book that's gonna use slang or not. The only thing that you can do is maybe when you're in the bookstore you can start reading a few pages, or you can read a few pages on Amazon or something like that. Or another good strategy is reading books by authors that you've already read something by, because then you know the writing style, you know if they write in an easy kind of way or in a more difficult language, so you'll know what to avoid and what to not avoid. A couple of book recommendations just from the top of my head would be the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. It's really easy, it's a middle school book, so if you like those, I definitely recommend reading these in a foreign language. It's not too hard to understand. Then you could also read Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. This is a contemporary book, and it also uses a really easy language and is also easy to get into. It's short, so it probably won't take you a long time to go through. You could also read The Designated Ugly Fat Friend by Cody Keplinger. I recently read that one. It was also very easy language, very good book also, and quite short, so you can go through it fast. Maybe you would also like to try a Sarah Dessen book, even though I'm not a fan of Sarah Dessen. I read 2 of her books and didn't like them at all. If you generally like her, I think that she writes in a way that is easy to understand and doesn't use a lot of complicated words and stuff, so you could try her out if you like her. So these were all the tips that I could think of. I hope I helped a few of you guys. If you want to start reading in a foreign language, just go for it. It's really good practice and it's really lots of fun once you get into it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to comment and subscribe. See you in my next video. Bye!